As a designer, I had, as a creative, I had a few ideas around what I thought the branding should be like. But I really needed to step back and be a good client and let Seshi work her magic and be open to what she was going to suggest. And I made the very conscious decision of doing that because I can sometimes be a little bit, I think it should be that way, or I come to some things with kind of some preconceived ideas. And it was really interesting. The initial branding that Seshi brought to me, the first draft is pretty much what you see now. We made very few changes because she really, really understood the brief, and she took such a great brief. And the process really highlighted to me how great systems and processes help Seshi achieve that. Hi, I'm Beth Episode I, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. And this week it is a solo with Beth episode. Today I wanted to talk to you about the recent process I've been through of rebranding. I thought some of you might find it helpful if you are thinking about rebranding yourself, or if you are possibly have never had branding done for your business. So the reason why I decided to go through the process of rebranding with More Time to Design, it came about over a few months and me thinking about where I was taking More Time to Design, and a few conversations I had with people that I really value their opinion. When I started More Time to Design, it was very much, it's a bit scrappy, like most new businesses, and you kind of see how you go, you test the waters, and creating a logo and some like brand guidelines was something that I gave a little bit of thought about, but not a lot. And in hindsight, maybe should have given a little bit more thought to. But when you start a new business, it's, there's so many things that you need to turn your attention to that it can be hard to choose which ones to do. And so we're just coming up to our 2nd birthday of the launch of More Time to Design. And when I started thinking about the rebrand, we were most probably at about the 18-month mark of the business. And one of the things that I have really struggled with More Time to Design is around the visuals of the branding. Really, how does it look? And most probably part of that is because it is a software company and it is a software product, but it's a software product for people who are very visual and very aesthetically driven. And so one of the hesitations that I had about rebranding, or, the reason why it took me maybe a little bit longer to get there, is because it really wasn't clear in my mind which direction I wanted the branding to go. So with my interior design studio, when I had the branding done for that, I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. I knew exactly, I could give very clear directions to the graphic designer who put that together for me. But with more time to design, I really didn't have that clear visual and really couldn't communicate well around what I wanted it to look like. And so because I was aware of that, I knew that it would be really hard for someone to kind of produce something that I was happy with. So that was something that I sat with for about 6 months. And then I had a couple of conversations, as I said, with people who I really value their opinion. And one of them said, you really need to look at your branding. It's not doing more time to design justice. And if you're going to grow, you need to look at it. And it was kind of that jolt that I needed to go, okay, let's really look at this. So then it became around, well, who do I use? And this is a really important decision when it comes to choosing someone to do your rebranding or building your brand, because your brand identity is one of those first visual cues that you have for your clients, your prospective clients, for more time to design, for the interior designers who will be using it. It's those first early visual cues that your branding gives those people as to what your brand is about, what your business is about. And so I knew I needed to work with someone who understood that. And when you're looking for someone to do your branding, you really need to be able to communicate with that person really well. And they need to also have a really clear understanding of your business and who your target market is. And so I spoke to a few people. I had a few people suggested to me, but in the end, I worked with Seshi from Seed Creative, who I knew and had lots of contact with. She's been a guest on the podcast, and I just felt very comfortable with working with Seshi. And even after our initial briefing calls, I knew that I'd made the right decision. So then it was really a matter of going down the path. And I thought I would talk a little bit about the process that I went through with Seshi. And obviously everyone is going to have a slightly different process, but I thought it might be really helpful for people to hear this process, especially if you're thinking about going through the rebranding process. So one of the most interesting things that came out of working with Seshi is Seshi does kind of an initial phone call with you. It goes for about an hour, and she really talks to you about your brand and who you are wanting to talk to. And this was the most enlightening hour of conversation for me, because through that, I was really able to articulate to Seshi exactly who I was talking to, and having some real clarity around that with Seshi has been amazing and has really helped me understand what the branding needed to be. And that was a real point where I was like, great, I feel very, very comfortable with Seshi. The other thing that came about from that was, as a designer, I had, as a creative, I had a few ideas around what I thought the branding should be like. But I really needed to step back and be a good client and let Seshi work her magic and be open to what she was going to suggest. And I made the very conscious decision of doing that, because I can sometimes be a little bit, I think it should be that way, or I come to some things with kind of some preconceived ideas. And it was really interesting. The initial branding that Seshi brought to me, the first draft, is pretty much what you see now. We made very few changes, because she really, really understood the brief, and she took such a great brief. And the process really highlighted to me how great systems and processes help Seshi achieve that. So that was the process of pulling together the new branding. And I have taken some time to roll that out. I must admit, when Seshi sent me over the file with all of the new branding assets in there, I was like, oh my goodness, like there's a lot here. It was definitely overwhelming. Seshi, once again, has a great process to help you through that. But I think one of the things that I have learnt from this is around how you don't necessarily have to jump in and have a big launch of your branding and all of that kind of stuff. I have definitely taken a kind of a slower approach to rolling it all out. And it is something that we are still working on and we're still going through. And the process with Seshi has been amazing. So my few final thoughts on this and my takeouts on the process of rebranding are, if you are going through that stage and you kind of have got to the point where you feel your business is ready to go to the next level and you need to have a stronger brand presence, before you decide to engage someone to help you with that, be really clear about what you want out of the process. My second tip is to make sure that you work with someone who understands the businesses and the clients that you want to talk to. So having someone who works with other people in our industry is really crucial. And my third tip is to just be open. Be open to the process, be open to suggestions. And just like with our clients, when we're working with them on their interiors and we want them to allow us to work our magic, allow your graphic designer, your branding person to work their magic, because that really is when the best brands come alive. So that's today's episode. I hope you found it helpful. And if you are thinking of rebranding or haven't had a brand done before, if you've got any questions, happy to answer them about how I've gone through it. Of course, if you Seshi from Seed Creative is awesome to work with, and I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions if you have that through DMs or anything like that on Instagram. And of course, I encourage you to check out Seshi's episode that we did a few months ago. I will link to that in the show notes for you all. Okay, see you next week for our next Design Dialogue. Thank you for listening to this Design Dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.